Credits. Ramble! Woo! Some of the puzzles to the end seem to be a bit weird. Like, especially like the hint that said you need to distract the guard. And then you distract the guard, but you don't use that distraction to get out. Some of the hints were a little unclear. Some of the puzzles were a little all over the place as well. Can't actually remember some of them. Which in some ways is a good thing. I liked that we went back to the kind of figuring out some things. Like there were a couple of points with substitution ciphers. And, oh my goodness, hint system, it was terrible. It wasn't terrible, but some of it was unhelpful. Which we've just talked about. Then there was the one that we had this session where you were making the thing. What's it? Come on, brain. You had the answer a moment ago. Where we were making the where you're taking the tabula and working out what it was saying. I really like that. As you're kind of figuring out things and you're making things work. I don't like how much it was kind of making a point of the Gnostics weren't Christian heretics. Considering the definition of a heretic is going against the orthodox of the religion, orthodox, as a Christian group, which they kind of are, they are heretics. I mean, that's dictionary definitions. Yeah. Having said that, I think I would have been really unhappy if they'd actually shown the conclusion as like both sides, as if things had happened and oh yeah, the two really are, the Gnostics are right. Because other than, I mean, well, you've got the Tabula Veritatis kind of fitting in, and oh, this is Eden. There wasn't any really look of it of saying, oh, this is definitely Eden. But also, I mean, other than the source of the four rivers, but rivers move. But they just kind of put in. Apart from that, that was the only thing that was a very kind of, yes, this is the way it went. Also intrigued by the fact that every time that you visit Eden in a game, it ends up blowing up like that. Because it did that, I think, in Adam Ventures as well. It seems weird. I'm trying to just think about the characters, like Langham, like why he was doing what he was doing. In that... No, I had a thought there. It's gone. Oops. But in that, he's got his character, and so he's kind of, he wants this ambition to build up. But was he following his grandfather who's looking for it, the Ganon Senior? Because then that Ganon must have been doing a similar thing, but why is he trying to, other than, yes, unleash the ambition? So if you know all of it, why don't you know the whole bit? Yeah, I'm just complaining about the kind of metaphysical aspect. There were a few points towards the end, especially that Mary Magdalene and, oh, she had a child with Jesus, felt very kind of Dan Brown-esque, which is quite rubbish, because he's terrible. And when you start hinting at his writing in your own writing, that there's a sign of it not being very good, most of the stuff attached to that, like there was a point where I think there was he said it was based on a book which was Holy Blood, Holy Child, which is based on some evidence that's provided by, I can't remember the fellow's name, but a Frenchman, who then came out and said it was a complete hoax. So we probably shouldn't be referencing it that much. But it seems to have really taken off, which, as someone who's kind of an evangelical Christian, it's a bit like, what's going on? So yeah, it's more of the same. I'm kind of... They keep doing this and teasing the relationship between George and Nico, and after a while there is going to be that point of, get on with it! Because basically they have that relationship. I mean, you could see it with George with the diamond ring and Nico's response to that. is that there is that kind of warmth and affection and attraction there. But I think between every single game, they've basically broken up, and then they get back together in the game. And it's like, why do you do that? That makes no sense. If you're going to write them to have that kind of relationship where they do have those kind of feelings for each other, why do they just split apart again? It's not like it's not like they have to get a job in different countries. Admittedly, Nico has had the same job all the way through. I think she was a journalist in the first game. I think in all the games, to be fair. And George is the one who's kind of drifting around doing different jobs. Because in the first one, he's just a tourist in France. In the second one, I don't know why. I can't remember why he's back in France. In the fourth one, I think he just got that job in the insurance place, which he has kept here. But you'd think that they would kind of develop a... I don't know. Why do they keep splitting apart? It annoys me. Stop it. I think there were a few... I'm kind of actually annoyed that the heraldry... Oh no, the heraldry was... No, was the heraldry in the thing? I'm trying to remember if the heraldry was relevant. I don't think the heraldry was, which really annoys me. As someone who's kind of intrigued by that stuff, really kind of annoyed. There's so many... I think there are a few points in this where they could have had a few more puzzles and kind of had a bit more thinking going on. That's... I just like puzzles, I like heraldry. I'd like to see more of those substitution and working out what the words are kind of puzzles in video games like this. Because you end up not getting that. You end up, like, we had some in the first game, and they were really quite interesting. And then we had one earlier in this, and we had this one with the tabula. I'm already repeating myself. I'm not sure I liked... I think about this before, because I'm thinking about choices in games with, like, Dreamfall Chapters and stuff. And Mass Effect Andromeda, both games that kind of seem to have choices in places, and is there an effect? The lying to Langham, that choice, and then telling him the truth, the kind of two-set choice, there doesn't seem to be much choice going there, much of a consequence. Because if you take the choice of saying, no, I'm going to lie to you again, I assume he kills Marquez, and then threatens Eva, and then you give him the tabula. And then that's if you lie. If you tell the truth, the same thing. The first time, I assume everything happened the way you tell the truth the second time. At which point, why not just have George speak and make the choice himself? Because the choice from the player is not having any impact. I think the other thing was, like, what was it? It was the map puzzle, like, earlier on. I think in the last session, where we worked out that it was Santa, the chapel we went to, the monastery we went to, in Montserrat. Because you're putting the pins in the different locations that you've heard about and you've talked about, which leaves you one in the middle, but you can't put the pin in that one until you've got more information, because you can't just go, okay, it's got to be this shape. No, you have to find out the places, and I think that's kind of always something that's a bit frustrating with some puzzle games, is you're required to find bits of the information so your character can solve it, rather than going, oh, there's this thing that kind of solves the question anyway. Oh, this was kickstarted, of course, wasn't it? So that's probably who all these people are. I was like, this is a really special things, and some of them are in different names. So yeah, I think there are a few points where the puzzles weren't as good or as tight as they could have been, and I think... Oh, no, this is a separate group of Kickstarter backers. Okay. Oh, now it's talking about the Kickstarter backers. I see. But I think it's like, thinking about the story, because I just saw that, just thinking about it. It's like, the first one, you're against Templars. The second one, I don't think that was Templars. I don't think. The third one, was Templars again. The fourth one... Oh, that may have been Templars as well. The fourth one. And we got to this one. And this didn't have the Templars in. This fifth one. But in this fifth one... In this fifth one, we kind of seem to be almost getting involved between this conflict between two Gnostic sects, almost. One saying we need to maintain the balance, one saying we need to bring Lucifer back. I think from a narrative sense, it would have been nice to have seen either a third group saying actually we need Jehovah, or if Father Simeon had a bigger role in being this kind of opposite force, this force directly opposite to Langham, because the opposite to complete chaos is not a neutral position, it's complete order. So I think from a narrative, kind of putting the theology to the side, but the narrative perspective, I think it would have been better to have had a third side trying to pull completely over in one side, in one direction against the other. And I think, I was thinking, like, it felt a little odd for me, kind of the dream sequence we had at the end with George, is that you had Marquez, who's admittedly very gruff character, but has been quite fair and nice and kind. Then you've got Father Simeon, who, while he's quite zealous against what he considers evil, he's not in any way been opposed to George, nor is he in that sense, nor has he kind of been breaking the law or anything. He's been very kind of, this is my view on these things, this is what's happening, this is evil, and we need to deal with it because it's evil. You then had, as your third character, providing the pro-chaos, basically, position, was Hobbes, whose entire job, his raison d'etre, kind of, not quite, but whatever, I've said it now. His job, in that sense, was to go out, was breaking the law and forging paintings. So it seems in that sense that you've got, I'm not entirely sure if you could have someone who was representative of chaos in such a way without having them break the law, but I think that would have been a better character, especially considering Hobbes for the bits of the game where we were interacting with him. He was antagonistic towards George, and I think if you'd had someone who was more friendly to George and helpful where he could afford to be, I think it would have fit that little bit of the story better, in that it would have had the kind of two extremes being represented with their flaws, but as people that we've had to interact with, and they've both been kind of positive in some sense. I think the issue is if you make them both negative, you kind of then say, look, here is a Catholic priest, he's evil, and by the way, do you remember the last game, because Catholic priests were evil in that one too. So you end up in that kind of difficult point of how would you balance that from a narrative perspective. So yeah, puzzles, more code puzzles, always good. Rimpy, I hope this is the last set of Kickstarter backers, otherwise I'm gonna have trouble with what I'm talking about. Good Kickstarters? No. Good code puzzles, always like those. A few of the puzzles were a bit weird. I did like the musical puzzle and trying to, because you had to read the sheet music of what he was singing. I'm not sure how that would work if you didn't read sheet music. because maybe you just have to hit things at random and try and get it, because you couldn't try and time it so that it sounded the same, because the rhythm was off, because you'd hit it, and then George would say something, and then he'd hit it again, and then you'd click on something and he'd stall, and then do the animation, and then it'd make the sound. So you couldn't get the proper beat to it. So I don't know how that would have worked. I don't know how that would have worked if you couldn't read that music and knew what the actual notes were from reading it. Oh dear, there are more of them. Okay. I like seeing Dwayne and Pearl again. I think we've seen Dwayne in all 4. Wait, did we see him in 3? Maybe we didn't see them in 3. So who knows? So that was good. I think were there any other repeat characters? I don't think there's been many repeat characters in the series, have there? I mean, other than George and Nico, I don't think there's any set of characters that have appeared in all of them and have survived. I mean, the Grandmaster was in 1 and 3. So you had the Grandmaster in 1 and 3, and you had one of the other Templars who changed sides in 3 because he died in 3. He sacrificed himself so that you can escape. I can't think of many characters who are also in 2 appearing in others other than Dwayne and Pearl. So it's always good to see those again. I'd like to see. I think it'd be good to have more people who had returned. Maybe there were some and I just missed. I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to avoid talking about much theology and philosophy in the credits, because I've talked about that throughout the game. I think especially my view on kind of free will and determinism and predestination and that kind of thing, which I think is very much the opposite of the view of the designer of the game. So kind of we kind of clashed a few times there when thinking about the philosophy and the philosophical nature of things, and I would guess that the designer of this would be an atheist, considering some of the other along with the other games, because I think it's all designed by the same person, which does result in that kind of clashing of viewpoints. And I'm trying to think about other things to say. So good puzzles. There's philosophy, as long as you don't mind possibly playing a game where it talks about philosophy that you disagree with. Barry the Wonder Sheep. Should be Wonder Goat for Broken Sword name. Where was I going with that? I've gotten distracted. I've distracted myself. Stupid sheep. So there's... Well, I am actually running out of things to say. I like trying to get through the whole credits with rambling, but I don't think I'm going to make it this time. Good puzzles in general. The story was a little all over the place. I think it had, in some sense, in that, and by that I mean, there's a goal set out at the very beginning, which is get the painting back. Because we're the insurance and we need to get it back. At the same time, there's the various things that make us go, hang on, this isn't right. And then, there's a treasure thing attached to it, let's now chase the treasure. And I think it would have been, the main villain was only introduced, introduced probably about a third of the way through, but only about halfway through did we realise who the actual villain was, Langham. And I think that's sometimes a problem I have with games like Baldur's Gate, where you have an overarching story. Like, if you follow the story through, you follow the story, you don't know what the overarching plot is. I know Fallout kind of does the same thing, where there's almost like two different plots, but you get hints to you do get a lot more hints in the first part. Like you meet a couple of super mutants in a few different places, I think. Well, not too late. But you hear rumours about things going on that lead you into the second part. Whereas I think in this game, I think you had the same kind of thing, didn't it? Well, there was a thing in the painting. There was a message, because of course there was. It's a Broken Sword game, of course there was. And I think in some sense it would have been a good idea to have had, maybe to have brought in George for that reason. Like, you're a treasure hunter, there's rumours about treasure connected to the painting, so we're called in by someone to help resolve it, and that could then lead you into the same plot, but you've got it in mind, oh, there's a treasure thing here. And again, I'm quibbling on the storyline. Yes, you are in the credits, Emmanuel Trapanese, Order of the Goat. See, that's how you do it properly for Broken Sword. I did like the little shot at the end, thinking about it, where Shears shows up and he's got the kebab in one hand, and it looks like kind of there's been all of this, especially with like kind of all the magic moments and whatever, leading to ooh, deity, ooh, god, maybe one of them has shown up, and then ooh, no, it's Shears. I did quite like that. Again, you get to the point where, although there is a very much in this game, there is a leaning towards, oh, the Gnostics are right, the Gnostics were right, ooh, the Gnostics, ooh. I did like, to some extent, that at the end, it wasn't really shown that it was right. Kind of. Although I don't know exactly how you do kind of show Lucifer and Jehovah both kind of there. I'm not sure how you would do that in such a way as to be respectful, because if that's disrespectful, there's going to be a lot of people there's going to be a lot of furore, there's going to be a lot of controversy around it. And now, admittedly, sometimes controversy does help selling things like this, and you start getting some. If you can hear that banging, I apologise. I think we've got some people around just fixing stuff in the bathroom. I didn't think they'd be here now while I'm recording. So, come on, brain. You had a thought to brain to think. I got distracted. The controversy. So yeah, you could get that controversy. That would probably give you a lot of free publicity, free advertising. But I don't think that would have been useful for this, because I don't think the kind of people who'd be interested in that controversy would be interested in a point-and-click adventure game necessarily. So, being careful about it and saying, here is a viewpoint, here is what the Gnostics believed. Although this is now the second game in a row where it's gone, oh, you know this rather famous story from the Bible. Oh, it's wrong. I mean, you had a white Moses sacrificing someone on the Ark of the Covenant to give it power to blast people, for example. Which is wrong on so many levels, considering he was a Hebrew born in Egypt, and human sacrifice was against the Levitical law. And here we get the view of actually both Jehovah and Lucifer were involved in creation, and they created the world, and the Trinity is Jehovah. The music has started living. Jehovah, Lucifer, and mankind. So there wasn't a Trinity before creation. Seems a bit odd. So, yeah. From a Christian perspective, obviously, the Trinity is God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. And so there was that kind of little moment of, really? I'm kind of finding things to talk about and kind of failing. So I think I will stop there before I ramble on any further. And kind of say that I'm not entirely sure what's going to come next. It will probably be another puzzle game, because I'm not really doing any of the puzzle games. Well, Dreamfall Chapters, which is kind of a puzzle game. It's more of a puzzle game than the Telltale games, but it's more like a cross between a Telltale game and a point-and-click adventure game. It's got more puzzles. Like Telltale adventures sometimes seem to have them, but so I'd probably look for a proper puzzle game to replace this. By the time you're hearing this, I've probably already started recording it though, so who knows? Who knows what it's going to be? But yes, we'll find out, or you'll find out next time. So I will bid you adieu at this point, while we let the rest of the credits roll through to show all these people who are in the credits. I think all of these are Kickstarter people, so these are the people who backed this game. Hooray! So there we go. I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Just where she got, where could I say, just where I looked. walks in another world. I never know which been. She's my heavenly twin. She's my Jasmine. She talks like a soundtrack. I wanna check the playback. She's cool and enigmatic. She's really neoclassic. Her smile's a panacea, a present day Sophia. I'm buzzing like a short out. My mind's a brawl in a courthouse. She's a strange girl. She walks in another world. I never know where she's been. She's my heavenly twin. She's my Jasmine. The style is always highbrow. I've gotta reach her somehow. She's 1,000 shades of gray and a million miles away. Bewildering and abstract. She really is a new black. I'm hypnotized and tongue-strapped. Feels like a dollar zooming flashback. She's a strange girl. She walks in another world. I never know where she's been. She's my heavenly twin. She's mine. She's a strange girl. She walks in another